it's too hard to ignore. The ability to softly default on the dollar by revaluing gold, it is one of our only options left.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for August 11th through August 18th, 2025, while supplies last. First this week, 1 ounce assorted silver rounds are just $1.49 over spot per ounce. Next, 10-ounce silver pamp bars are just $2.99 over spot per ounce. 90% silver assorted U.S. half dollars are just 99 cents over spot per ounce. MS64 gold U.S. St. Gaudens $20 coins are just $180 over melt per coin. 1 ounce gold Rand refinery bars are only $65 over spot per ounce. And finally, 1 10th-ounce platinum UK Britannia are just $34 over melt per coin. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.
Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. I'm so glad we have this returning guest for our weekly market update. Andy Schectman is the CEO of Miles Franklin Precious Metals, and he's joining us today is Monday, August 11th, 2025. Andy, thanks for joining us again for this weekly market update on Liberty and Finance.
Good to be here, buddy. You're looking sharp.
I was long overdue for a hedge trim, and I got it. I'm happy about that. So, and I figured out a new angle because we have a joke that my wife always thinks I get my hair cut too short and wonders if she should change the locks and not let me in the home. But this time she came along for a trim as well, and I was the driver, so I was her ride home. So we had that covered. So no
that's
worries.
A good thing.
That's our perpetual joke about that. Okay, so we'd love to get your insights into what the heck is going on with the Fed for one, and the markets and the exchanges for another. We seem to keep getting closer and closer to various breaking points. In fact, Rafi Farber also has been talking about the repo fund running dry. And the last time that happened, or the time before last, 2019, there was a September spike up to 10% overnight for the interest rates, and that usually spells trouble ahead. And he says we're running up within a couple weeks of that dry spell again that will clog up the plumbing of the financial, the monetary system that the banks are subject to in our country. So we could tackle these in any order you prefer. And if you have other things that you've been watching, feel free to bring those in as well. But I wanted to see if we could get a quick update from you on your view of the, rapid fire types of news that seem to be coming out about the Fed making throat clearing noises about changing to a new way of dealing with our monetary system, and the Trump administration's approach of changing its relationship with the Fed. And there seems to be a clash of the titans going on right now there, and wonder where the ordinary moms and pops like us are gonna shuffle out in this mix. Your view of what's going on surrounding the Fed?
Yeah, you look at the issuance of all the stable coins. To Rafi's point, the issuance of stable coins would really compete with the Wall Street banks, would really start, in my mind, to challenge the mandate of the Fed, one of the mandates, and in the respect that when stablecoins are being created, not just by banks, but by corporations, the backing will be U.S. Treasuries and a one-to-one basis primarily, or real darn close to it, instead of currency being created through lending by the banks. And what this does is it will take reserves out of the Federal Reserve, because these bonds, these treasuries, will be purchased or taken directly from the Fed or the accounts at the Fed, and then deposited into the Treasury General account. In other words, everything goes through the Fed, and so it will go through the Fed. It will pull reserves out and go into the Treasury General account. And really, what that does is it gets us probably much faster to that point that we saw in 2019, where you had about $3 trillion in reserves. And when you dip below that, you get into a liquidity problem. You get into that reverse repo problem. You get into the overnight lending spike problem. There are a lot of very interesting things happening at the Federal Reserve. The appointing of Stephen Murin to the spot that it has opened up, the gal that resigned He's the gentleman who advocates for a weaker dollar, who wants lower interest rates, and is the author of the Mar-a-Lago Accord. So many things happening with the Federal Reserve, not to mention who is going to take the helm, who to replace Powell next year, and is it Judy Shelton? Is it Bissent? What is their plan? Is it to devalue the dollar? Is it to do something with gold and revalue it? You just saw the Federal Reserve issue a report right off their website. Go to it and look at it, talking about gold revaluation, how it's been proposed by people not only in the United States, but other central banks around the world. What was a fringe theory that I talked with you and others about months ago is now all of a sudden being written about on the Federal Reserve's own website. Certain things that stick out as well. You have Michael Hartnett, who is an analyst at B of A, amazing analyst. You know, Vince Lancy covers him well, and Vince is another smart guy, one of the smartest. But Michael Hartnett is one of these guys you have to read over and over, or have Vince read it for you and kind of translate his lingo. But he just came out the other day and said central banks, in essence, will be forced to revalue their gold reserves because of debt burdens, which is obviously very positive for gold. Michael Hartnett said that. And then you have another one of their analysts, Bank of America, Francisco Blanche, talking about gold revaluation, said, be very bullish for gold, showing it's no longer a barbarous relic, but a key asset for central banks. Now even the biggest central bank of them all is taking a renewed interest in gold. So you have analysts of the B of A talking about this. But this is too hard for the Fed, I think, and the Treasury to ignore in an effort to pay down debt, to fund stimulus, or to infrastructure. Maybe not to issue as many bonds for a while because they'd have enough money in the Treasury general account, or, to your point, support a new currency framework, a new partial gold backing, or to Judy's point, a Treasury-backed, a gold-backed Treasury. And for those of us who say, well, like James Rickards, it's funny because I did an interview today, done again with Alistair and Jesse Day. Jesse asked Alistair and I on, and he doesn't think it'll happen, that gold will be revalued. And I said to him, I really appreciate your insight. I disagree. I say, when I'm on with Dunnigan, I tell him you're the smartest guy in the industry, and he is. But I do disagree. I do think that it's too hard to ignore the ability to softly default on the dollar by revaluing gold. It is one of our only options left. And for those of us who look past even being able to market, guys like James Rickards, who's saying way much higher, maybe 24,000 based upon a metric he has, or Mike Maloney, who says 10,000. 10,000 would give the Treasury general account $2.5 trillion free and clear. 24,000 would give $6 trillion free and clear. But I think politicians might argue, if it gets to that point, that the long-term purchasing power of gold justifies a higher valuation. I don't know, but I do think that it's coming. There's been a lot of talk also about the tariffs. One of the things that I saw last Thursday night, and again, I've never seen before in my going on 36 years in this industry. So I'm out to dinner with some people, one of which is someone who I work with, and he says, do you see futures? They're at $3,500, and I look at my phone, I look at our website, I'm like, that can't be because spot's $3,400. He says, no, they're $3,500. I'm like, can't be. Lo and behold, I looked at the CME website, and yeah, they were at $3,505 or whatever, even higher. I've never seen that, to my memory, where on one announcement that the futures price dislocated by $100 an ounce from the current spot price. And certainly putting a 39% tariff on gold bars would have been enough to certainly do that. Now, they have backed away from that to a degree. One thing that people who are covering this story are missing is still the 10% tariff on all gold bars, regardless. In fact, I think I have it on my phone here. I was just reading it. Regardless of, Yeah, as of April 5th, 2025, an executive order added a 10% additional tariff on all imported gold bars, regardless of country. So that's $1 million worth of gold bars imported would add $100,000 extra on tariffs. Now, it does exclude the bars that have come in under this 39% tariff. Have no duty. Now, they have backed off on that and said the customs had spoken out of turn. So no, they're not going to be tariff 39%. But that 10% tariff alone, if you know that these refineries and this industry works on fractions of a percent, is ridiculous. And will make very quickly, these banks who are shorting naked think twice about doing this. And so I'd also like to say that even though they've backed off of the 39% and all of a sudden people are forgetting about this extra 10%, which I guarantee you is part of the reason what we're seeing in COMEX, which I'll get to in a moment, I think it really goes to show how quickly things can distort prices and trade flows, with gold's plumbing being as sensitive as it is. Like bang, boom, up $100. Whoa, I've never seen that before. One of the things that I've noticed a lot about the deliveries into COMEX is just how they keep ramping higher. And it's something that is very strange to me because these are things that we would never see. Now, here it is right here. I want to, we talked last week about where I would say on your show that less than 1% of contracts ever stood for delivery. Now, I used to say that way back when we started talking about all the deliveries on COMEX. In 2020, I was talking about this with you, and I'd say, look, forever, 1% or less stand for delivery. And I mentioned to you last week how just through the first 3 days, we saw 20,160 contracts post for first day settlement. And of those 20,160, which is 2,160,000 ounces, every single one of them stood for delivery, 100%. Now that's really unusual, like way unusual. And in 3 days, the first 3 days of the delivery notice, $7 billion worth of gold stood for delivery. And most has actually been withdrawn off of COMEX. Now I got at the same time, and I want to give credit, I try and always give credit to people like Vince Lancy and Alistair, because this whole community does so much work. And it's hard to do it all on your own. And I rely upon 3, 4, 5 hours a day of reading. And I find so many people and I try to quote them. This is someone, I don't know who it is, but I noticed that we follow each other now on Twitter. His name is PM, his or her name, PM as in Precious Metals Bug. And PM Bug said, I looked at the totals for COMEX daily delivery stock reports for the last few days. You can see that the received and withdrawn numbers are 10 times the net change. Okay, I could show you the table. But what I want you to understand is that August 1st, must have been a Friday, August 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. Those are the days that are in this table. And what it shows as is that for silver, okay, for silver, the COMEX received 1,721,192.540 ounces in bars into the COMEX on those 5 days. 1,721,192.540. But we saw leave the COMEX withdrawn over those same 5 days 1,890,316.820. So more than all of the silver that was deposited in those first 5 days, which in and of itself is crazy, seeing all of these deliveries, all of it plus another 170,000 ounces left the COMEX. One of the things that's really unusual, Dunnigan, is this acceleration. It's crazy enough to see the deliveries. It's really crazy to see the number of contracts posted for settlement stand for delivery. when so many of these contracts would roll over or cash settle, not stand for delivery. And when you see in 3 days, $7 billion worth, 20,150 or 60 contracts, all of them stand for delivery, it should start to marinate in your brain that something much, much, much bigger here is happening. And look, so I mean, what you're basically seeing is that not only are players wanting to keep their metal at COMEX vaults or bring it here from wherever it's coming from, they're also withdrawing a massive amount. In fact, in this case, more than was delivered. To me, that is a massive sign of the times, and you have to wonder who's behind all of this. I don't know. I guess that it's interesting that there's zero talk of this on the mainstream business media. Those are the big things to me. We could talk about the acceleration of M2 and what that typically means. One other thing, I guess, that is worth mentioning, you know, I talked with you about how we have record margin debt, we have record by the public, we have record participation in the equity markets by the public, greater than that of the dot-com bubble. At the same time, we have all of the insider selling, you know, like huge, the owners, the business insiders, but also the institutionals, the hedge funds. They've been selling $2 to $4 billion a week since June. And I talked about Bezos selling $6 billion in Amazon since June. Anyways, one other thing to add to that is you also have record option play by the public. So you have, when you talk about what could possibly go wrong, you have record involvement in options by the retail public, record margin debt by the public, over $1 trillion, record all-time, and record participation as the insiders are going the other way. And then you see deliveries, like I'm mentioning, with actually outflows out of the COMEX. You're talking so sophisticated, and who the hell and where the hell is it going? Who's taking it, and how do you take semi-trucks worth of metal out of the COMEX? Where is it going? But every day this is going on. Every month this is going on with gold and silver. And the public has very little exposure to it. So the public is all in on leverage in equities, as the institutionals and the insiders are going that way. And their institutionals and whoever the hell is sophisticated enough to do this on COMEX is taking delivery and deliveries and offloading amounts that I've never seen in 36 years. No one has, while they're, the public has nothing in equity, in commodities. And what could possibly go wrong? I think people need to think about the little man rule, the art of war, misdirection. This is how the big money always wins, and the herd always gets led to slaughter. It's the few that, can do things out on that cold branch with the wind blowing against you and no one supporting you, because you know in your heart that this is not the path to salvation, following the herd. It's a tough thing to do right now, but instead of following the herd, why don't you follow the insiders? You don't have to listen to what everyone is doing. Just look what the insiders are doing, and that should be, I think, a far better indication of where success will be than the herd, who is pushing the narrative at all-time highs and all-time overvaluations. Historically, I don't know. For me, I'll take the road less traveled, but traveled by people who are closest to the information, at least if it were me.
I want to add one more chapter to this series of linear events that you're laying out there. Basically, these are all happening simultaneously, and you're seeing this huge dichotomy, the gravitation to real things, commodities, and the divesting out of the equities, the stock market, by the insiders and the elite, financial elite, whereas the public is getting in deeper and deeper, as has happened in the dot-com as happened in 2008 and so on. You see that this is happening, where people are starting to play options, and everybody becomes giving out hot stock tips and everything. The next thing is, for those who do wake up and are willing to go out on that cold branch, but nobody's supporting them, and to do what their gut tells them is the most prudent and responsible and realistic thing to do by acquiring real things like precious metals, for example, or other commodities. What about what always happens at this same stage is all these cockroach firms come out from underneath the woodwork saying, buy gold, buy gold, buy gold, or, get your IRA into something stable, which is not bad advice. It's good advice. But the business practices at a lot of those firms are predatory. Just this week, I had a couple more clients talk to me about what they had been subject to when they went to some of these educational seminars at some of these dealers and got told, you got to do this strategy. And that strategy always somehow involves ending up buying some upgraded high-end rare collectibles, and so that you can do what the richest people in the room are doing, and making sure that you own these really rare things. That's how you're going to get your appreciation part of your strategy. Could we? And I asked the patience of those in our loyal audience who've been with us all through the years. They've heard this a couple of times before, but it keeps rearing its head. When those few percent of the moms and pops across the country are waking up to the need to protect themselves from the destruction of the dollar, the risk of the banking system, the risk of the stock market. They maybe even have heard about The Great Taking by David Rogers Webb. They know that anything in the bank doesn't belong to them. They know that anything in the stock brokerage account doesn't belong to them. So okay. I've heard this now from enough directions. I guess I'll finally take the plunge. And they watch some big glamorous ad on TV that goes on for like a minute and a half with some famous person whom they have known and trusted because of their being a celebrity or a former member of the government or a former member of the mint or whatever, giving them advice saying, this is what I trust and this is what you should trust. And then they're getting taken to the cleaners by these dealers who in 1 hour can take half their nest egg. Thoughts from you or new insights from you on how prevalent this is as part of the big cycle? You're talking about the little man rule, and this is part of how the little man gets fleeced too. And they finally are willing to participate in getting some real things. They still get taken advantage of if they go with a dealer who's predatory.
They're getting, it's some of the worst stuff I've ever seen. It took on a life of its own when I started talking about it. And they all do the same thing, quarter-ounce gold coins typically from mints that you've heard of. You won't find designs like that on any website. They'll say they're premium coins or special coins. The rich people are doing it, which is the furthest thing from the truth. They're limited edition. They'll say it's because these mints allow you to buy a die as long as it doesn't compete with what they're doing, and nothing that they would ever. You can't do a Canadian maple leaf die, but you could do a Canadian buffalo. They don't make the buffalo gold coins. Well, we have the rare Canadian buffalo. That's because they allow you, if you buy enough of them, to make something that no one else, or that they don't make, and you get a proprietary use of it. You're the only one who has it. In essence, you're calling something special that really isn't special, because when the other dealers get it, they don't want it. It has no liquidity. No one buys it, so it sits on their shelf forever, earning nothing but dust. The cost of carry means that they'll pay you 99% of melt value and melt it down because no one wants it. Not to mention the prices that they're paying are massively higher than what you can buy a 1/4 ounce gold eagle for. The reason I mention it is that the MO is the same with about the dozen companies that do it. For some reason, they're 1/4 ounce gold coins that would be sold between $1,100 and $1,500 right now. They're fractional silver coins from 3/4 of an ounce to 1.5, that some of them are 1 ounce, and they'll tell them they're premium coins. No, they're really not. And they're usually priced between $60 and $100+ over per ounce. These companies are making 100% plus profit. We make 2 or 3% profit at most, and usually on larger orders less. And so it's beyond horrible. And, as an aside, and when you're trying to decide, by the way, most of those paid spokesmen have no idea this is going on, because they just get paid. Maybe they get to buy gold eagles at cost, whatever it is, they don't know. And they're not spending the time, nor are their publicists looking into this. I know this for a fact. And I spoke with one of these publicists who I've opened the eyes of one or two of them who have contacted me. And I said, look, you don't have to tell me the company, but I'll tell you the MO. And they freak out. They're like, oh my God, how did you know that? Well, because I know. Anyways, the bottom line is that, so one of the things that differentiate a company like ours from everyone else is that Minnesota is the only state that regulates what is a federally non-regulated industry. Now, to be honest, for a year and a half, that licensing was suspended because it was being challenged. The constitutionality of it was being challenged. And although we kept our bond in place, the licensing was suspended. And I was contemplating figuring that it would get just ignored and they're going to let it go because, they're just going to abolish the regulation because Minnesota is the only state that does it. I was going to move my corporate office down to Florida, where I am, to where our satellite office is. It would have saved me money and aggravation. That's why I left the state of Minnesota, for the aggravation that goes with the way that their political system is. Anyways, they have since reestablished the licensing. So in an industry that is federally non-regulated, that allows literally, as far as I'm concerned, criminal enterprises like these companies, and they are flat out criminal. They know exactly what they're doing, and they're stealing from people. But it's federally non-regulated, so there's no FINRA type regulation. There's no insurance industry type regulation that sets a playing field and sets limits on what markups can be. Well, Minnesota doesn't play that way, and so virtually every single company in America will boycott the state of Minnesota the way they did when the licensing was in force. Because why would you want to do business into a state where you have to be subservient to the Commissioner of Commerce with a whole lengthy list of regulations? You have to take continuing education and compliance, and one of your sons is actually the star of our compliance classes, and he reads the questions. He's fantastic with different voices every time. So you know what I'm talking about. And then the bond, the very, very big bond, where it's you have to post it and personally guarantee it by the owners of the company. There's none of these companies will do business in Minnesota. It holds us to a higher set of standards. So we're licensed, we're bonded, we're background checked. None of these companies will do it. And these are the big ones that are spending a fortune to advertise on TV and paying a fortune. Now, I can say this only because I've been on Mike Adams' show a few times. Mike's been on your show. And Mike has mentioned this on his show, that he was offered $1 million by one of these companies to do just that. Now, I mean, come on, $1 million, really? So that company that he mentioned has several other high-profile people that I know of, one of which is a friend of mine, was offered $40,000 a month. So when you talk about the amount of money that this company is offering people like Mike and this other gentleman, who I don't have the permission to mention his name, but you'd all know his name. The reason that, you're getting all of these promotions is people think, wow, must be a very profitable industry, and why not? I believe in gold, and so they endorse it. But the truth of the matter is that amount of money, the markups in this industry are on par with the grocery chain. I mean, you don't make much in the way of markups. And this is why these companies are the way they are. They're predatory. They work on typically older demographics. They work with IRAs, something you're not looking at every day. And they're telling people delusions of grandeur. And we're promoted and recommended by, A, B, and C. We have to be good. And by the time people figure it out, the majority of them, some of them pass away. It's IRAs. Some of them never look at it. And the ones that do, they appease them so they don't drink their own bathwater. But I'll simply tell you this, that if you've fallen into this category of either really high-priced proof coins, much, much higher than what you can buy the regular gold eagle for, or the regular silver eagle for, or regular Canadian maple leaf, and or quarter-ounce gold coins. Don't ask me why they're all quarter, but they are. Or fractional silver coins. Those quarter-ounce coins will be between $950 and $1,500. You've paid way too much. Silver coins between $60 and $120 an ounce. You've paid way too much, 3 to 4 times. So that's what we've done, and we've helped a lot of people. And I try and take the higher road and not throw these companies under the bus, which would be very easy for me to do right here, right now, and to show with names redacted, invoices that would blow your mind. Instead, I just simply say they all do the same thing for some strange reason. And I'm sure there's some commonality in reasoning behind it, or maybe even an origin where these companies all come from. But it's worse than I'm painting it out to be, and worse than you painted it out to be. I've seen people's lives destroyed. I've seen 85-year-old men cry to me that I'm going to be divorced by tomorrow morning when my wife figures this out. I've seen people's lives literally upended by these companies who have little or no remorse or soul. And I don't know, karma to me is a very deep thing, and deeper than I think the word explains. And what goes around comes around. But I don't know how these people look in the mirror or look at their mom and dad in the face, knowing that, you know, this could be my mom and dad who you're screwing for the rest of their lives. And it's that bad. So I don't know if you intended for me to go this deep down that rabbit hole, but it's something that I'm very passionate about. And if you have been tied up in this, reach out to us. Don't be embarrassed. There's no shame in this. These people are professional con artists, and we're happy to help you, give you an appraisal of what you can do if you decide you want to do it, give you a roadmap to getting back to where you should be, and answer your questions with no obligation. We don't expect anything for it. We're happy to help any way we can.
Yeah. One more sign and signal that this is the nature of the dealer you're dealing with is if during the sales process they tell you all you got to do is hold on to this for 5 years and we'll guarantee that you're going to be in the good by that time. First of all, nobody can guarantee that. But the second of all, the fact that they are hiding behind this, fingers crossed, hoping 5 years into the future, which is a long time for some elderly people who don't know how much time they have, is another sign and signal that you're dealing with someone who's trying to pull the wool over your eyes rather than giving you a fair price going in, so that you're not cut in half right away on your nest egg.
A lot of these elderly, that's a good point. A lot of these elderly folks say to me throughout the years, yeah, you know, I just want to leave this for my kids so they have something. I'm not going to need it. And so they don't even look at it. And, oh, well, they told me 5 years. Well, one of them says 3 years. And one of the clients that we were talking to recently tried to get out and held their feet to the fire. And their supposed 3-year price, which was 40 days from now, was so much higher, supposedly, which in essence, they're just saying that to get out of hot water. The difference between what they'd pay them today versus 40 days from now is night and day. Now explain that crap to me. So in essence, it's all a big fugazi. It's all a big con game. And shame on these people, and shame on, there not being any oversight into these companies. That's the reason why, even to my own detriment, financially, and really just so much more difficult to have an office in Minnesota because of all of this. But it does hold us to a higher standard. Don't take my word for it. Take the state of Minnesota, our license, our bond, our background checks. If any one of us who represent Miles Franklin have had a felony related to financial services, you're out forever. You're disqualified. So it represents, I think, a much more even playing field in what is a federally non-regulated industry. And some of these people have found out a way to, in essence, victimize with a smile on their face to a tune of unimaginable proportions. I mean, the stuff I've seen, I can't even begin to tell you. So glad you brought it up. It's worth being redundant about. If we help one extra person, it's a good thing.
I guess I'll remember to put in a link in the description of this video with a whistleblower that we interviewed who was in the belly of the beast. He's inside one of these companies, and he's under pressure from his management every week to upsell into proofs and all kinds of exotic stuff. And he tries as best he can to just get people into standard investment grade bullion, just standard.
I think he went on to say that the brokers were not paid if they only bought bullion. They're salaried, but if they got them to buy the special coins, then they got big commissions. Well, I mean, it just says it all right there, the special coins, you get big commissions. Well, if they're special and they come with very big commissions, they ain't so special. So, nor are they liquid. It's just a big scam.
whenever I was interviewing him, it reminded me of the scene, if those of you have seen The Incredibles, the original movie, The Incredibles, near the beginning where Bob goes in and he's getting basically reamed by his boss saying, no, Bob, you're not supposed to pay out the claims. You're supposed to deny the claims. That's how this works. That's what keeps the wheels greased. That's what keeps things going. So this is this guy gets called in by his management, this whistleblower, on a regular basis and told, you really need to start selling the stuff that really gives us the high margins. And he says, I really feel I need to take good care of the elderly people that I'm working with. So he's constantly a thorn in the side of his management, and he's under a lot of pressure. And he and his wife are agonizing about how can I even keep this job, and what else does he have to consider, because he feels like he's doing the right thing where he is, but it's hard to do it. Hard to be conscientious in the environment that he's in. So that's an eye-opener for those people. I'll put a link to that in the description of this video. And we just want to make sure that we get a chance to let people know the specials we have that are actually really good deals, that they can compare, that they can shop around, that they can compare with other reputable dealers and get a fair shake on.
Yeah, so let's see here. Looking at my phone, I can see a golf ball 300 miles away, or 300 yards away. Can't see them on my phone. All right, so we have 1 ounce silver rounds at $1.49 over spot right now. These are dealer's choice. Great price for 1 ounce of silver. 10 ounce Pamp silver bar, $2.99 over spot. And as I was saying, these bars are only going to get more expensive and probably harder to come by here in the States because of the 10% tariff that will be on bars just like this. So, when you're adding 10% on silver or gold in an industry that has, you're talking fractions of a percent profit margins all the way down, that doesn't go over very well. But those are the nicest silver bars in the industry. Pamp, P-A-M-P, $2.99 over spot. 90% U.S. half, so that's the junk silver $0.50 at 99 cents over spot. These are coins that typically have much higher premium than the dimes and quarters. 99 cents over spot, amazing deal. Probably the best deal, period, in silver. 1 ounce gold Rand refinery bar, 65 over spot per ounce. Here again, same issue. This is coming in from South Africa. Any country, regardless, that's the Rand refinery. Any of these items will face tariffs. So, maybe they're all loaded up because there hasn't been a tremendous turnover in the retail market over the last few months. This stuff came in a while back. I don't know, but I think you'll start to see higher premiums on anything that is like this, a bar or coin from across the globe, which will start to add up to higher premiums on everything. The MS-64 $20 St. Gaudens, one of my favorite coins in the world. I remember in 2007, 8, and 9, we were paying $800 over spot, $1,000 spot for these. We were buying back at an 80% premium to spot. Now you're getting $180 over melt per coin. Let's figure out what that looks like. With spot gold right now at 33, call it 33.60 times 0.9675. The $20 gold coins are just a hair under an ounce. That means melt value of 32.50.80 plus 180, the premium, is 34.30, basically 34.30.80. Let's just say 34.30 per coin minus 33.60. So they are about right now currently $70 over spot or 180 over melt. So you're getting those cheaper. You're getting them at the same price you'd buy a 1 ounce gold bar from us, in essence, a Rand refinery. And let me tell you something, 1,000 times out of 1,000, I would choose that over a 1 ounce gold bar. Yes, it's a little bit less gold. I don't care. In 35 years, it's never been like this. Like I said, in 07, 08, 09, you're talking, I will pay you 70 to 80% over spot to buy this stuff back, let alone what you would pay for them. But my whole career, a 64 Saint would trade at a very large premium to even a 1 ounce gold eagle. of everything I've mentioned so far, the $0.50, by far the best value, and this MS64 St. Gaudens, the best value, and a true piece of Americana in a certified PCGS NGC holder, nothing better, at less than or on pace with a 1 ounce gold bar, much less than a Gold Eagle. It's not even close to me, what I would choose personally. And then lastly, I don't know how many of these 10th ounce platinum Britannias we bought. It seems like they've been on special since the beginning of time. We must still have some left. They're at $34 over melt value. And, you know, you listen to what the head of the Japanese Metals Association recently said, and he was the former head of gold trading for ICBC in China, that there's no platinum in London and there's no platinum in Switzerland. And yet they're trading over 3 million ounces a day in spot future delivery contracts in London with lease rates, borrow rates at 30%. Platinum, again, massively undervalued, and lots of deliveries happening on COMEX too. There's so many good deals right here. And when we look at it in context, like I said earlier, the public, all-time in on margin, on option bets, and on just in the market itself, all-time highs on all-time. As the big money's going the other direction and selling, institutionals, 2 to 4 billion since June 1st, along with all the insiders. And whoever is taking possession on gold, silver, and platinum and palladium on COMEX is doing so in a level no one has ever seen before, on the heels of all the central bank buying that we've been talking about in the public, asleep at the switch where there's these kind of values. I don't know. I mean, you couldn't write a book for a better contrarian indicator play. Whatever you choose, these are all good. But if I'm looking to buy gold and silver right now, not even a second thought, I'm buying the 64 Saints and the $0.50, and you're getting them as cheaper than I've ever sold them for in relation to spot in 35 years. God is my witness. That be the truth.
Well, Andy, we're always grateful for your insight into the inner workings of the precious metals supply chain and market, and all the way back to some of the geopolitical forces that are lining up. And it looks like we got this huge alignment of elite positioning themselves for the end game versus the little man basically lining up to be fleeced. And
that's exactly what it is. And if you'd never know it unless you really looked. Dunnigan, you just said it spot on. That is what it is. And, you know, pick your road, please, is kind of the choice. You want to take the road all the people are traveling, or the road less traveled, but by the people who are closest to the information. That's what I'm trying to say right now. This is all non-subjective. This is just looking at the numbers and looking at the trends. So anyways, always good to see you, my man. I will be back with a smile on next week. I look forward to seeing you then. I wish you and everyone else out there a good rest of the week, and I look forward to picking up where we left off, brother.
Thank you, Andy, as always, for joining us here on the Weekly Market Update.
God bless.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for August 11th through August 18th, 2025, while supplies last. First this week, 1 ounce assorted silver rounds are just $1.49 over spot per ounce. Next, 10-ounce silver pamp bars are just $2.99 over spot per ounce. 90% silver assorted US half dollars are just 99 cents over spot per ounce. MS64 gold US St. Gaudens $20 coins are just $180 over melt per coin. 1 ounce gold Rand refinery bars are only $65 over spot per ounce. And finally, 1 10th-ounce platinum UK Britannia are just $34 over melt per coin. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.